While we do that, I'm going to ask Nitin from Calsoft just to come up the front. They've been running a competition all day, and we have a couple of winners. So the first one we'd like to call up is Chetan from Dell EMC, if he's in the room. These are the Decode trivia competition winners. I should have taken part in this. I don't know why I didn't. Thank you. The second one is Tiago Rajan from Fidelity. Sorry. Okay, we're going to go right on to the lightning talks now, if we can have the list up. I'm hoping all the lightning talks presenters are in the room. This is an experiment, as I said this morning, trying to introduce a little bit more engaging conversation, a little bit more fun to the end of a long day. And so we're going to go straight in with Jacob, if he's in the room. And remember, Jacob, you've got 5 minutes. The timer's in front of you. So we'll see how this goes. It should be fun.
So the topic that I have is, do I have a choice? So once a great man, a very great man, a very, very great man said, love is blind, but marriage will open your... You sure? So it was our 10th anniversary, and me and my wife, we had a small party together. And we had a good time together, and finally what happened is I asked her the question, honey, do you still love me? I love you, do you still love me? So she looked into my eyes and said, do I have a choice? Okay, so that's what the question is. People kind of I do not doubt the sanctity of marriage. It should be the way it is. But what I'm saying is, what happens when you marry your data with the cloud? Okay, you kind of get the stuck feeling. Do you? I will leave it up to you for that to answer, but you get that stuck feeling. So that's when I thought, storage as a service. What happens if you could spin up your storage in your cloud? AWS, whichever cloud it might be. You can do data replication. You can go ahead, do data protection from your on-premise to any cloud that you want, from cloud to cloud, or whichever way that you want. Now that is what Cloud Volumes ONTAP is all about. And the possibilities that we can get out of Cloud Volumes ONTAP in terms of data mobility is just absolutely amazing. I'm not doing a product review here, but I just want to say that if at all we have that problem of your data being stuck, CVO has a lot of possibilities to offer you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacob. By the way, if you can take a moment to start filling out your feedback forms, we will be collecting them at the end of this session. Cheryl George, you're up next.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl George. I'm a technical marketing engineer with NetApp. So today I'm going to talk to you about storage synchronous replication. So data is to last decade, or rather, data is to this decade what oil was to the last. How did this happen? What happened? So in the morning, someone said in the last 2 years, we've, accumulated exabytes or even zettabytes of data. How did that happen? Anyone? Okay, so all of us have Fitbits, all of us have apps on the phones, and whoa, that's explosion of data, right? So the same thing or similar thing has happened to enterprises as well. Now, let's consider large enterprises like finance, retail, healthcare. all of them are expecting always on availability. What do we mean by always on? Imagine you're doing a finance transaction, paying 1 lakh to someone, and the site goes down. What happens? Right? There's no record of your transaction. You know the money has been deducted, but the bank doesn't know. So there's some kind of loss that affects you as a customer and the bank, right? So now with NetApp customers, storage is primary. So what we do for customers like this is offer a solution called Synchronous Replication. What does that mean is I'm going to maintain an exact copy of my data. Whatever transaction happens in my primary is going to be maintained in my secondary as well. So that if there's any kind of failure that happens to the primary, I can immediately resurrect my secondary copy and have the same transactions there. So if you talk about synchronous replication, it is driven by SLAs. What do I mean by these SLAs? Of recovery point objective, where, what do you mean by RPO? There's zero data loss. And recovery time objective, where I should have almost no downtime for my application. I should be able to recover that quickly. So you need to understand that synchronous replication, I have exact 2 copies, and the storage can do it in 2 ways. Either I cache it on my primary and then send this data to the secondary and get an acknowledgement back, or I cache it first on the secondary and send an acknowledgement to the primary where I commit, okay? You need to keep in mind that this will work provided my 2 storage systems are separated by probably 150 kilometers, and you have a round trip latency of less than 10 milliseconds, right? So the primary use case we're driving for synchronous replication is business continuity, disaster recovery, but some customers also have it for compliance and test and dev. Thank you.
Well done.
Hi all, good evening. I'll keep it short. So the title is Lightning Talks, but I can see that the audience is already enlightened for a long day, and I wouldn't want to, add any more technicalities. So the topic itself, I just wanted to have it as a very lightweight. This is typically our tea talk conversations that we have with our colleagues. So with all the storage advancements, evolution, solving various business problems. So one thing as a very jovial observation I had is, though we have improved on many fronts, but the storage subsystem alone, if you see as in isolation, the humble subsystem, it has for sure evolved, but it has only changed its places over the time. So just to give an analogy, so earlier we were very happy with the local JBOD storage being very localized, serving its purpose. Then came the capacity and performance problems. We had to think of shifting the problem. That is where we shifted the storage to a NAS and a SAN kind of form factor. And then again, the business challenges evolved. And guess what? So people said, why not let's try hyper-converged or converged infrastructure. So again, we have bought it as a local storage. And thereafter, I think the most recent ones is again, composable architecture, right? In a data center, again, you are essentially pooling your entire compute, storage, and network, but at a bare metal level, you can still provision this to your applications on demand. So if you connect back the dots, you would see that we evolved from a local, we went to an external, we went to hyper-converged, and again, we kind of seem to, make it as a local form factor. So this was just a one analogy that I was, trying to put forth here, that at many times we can solve the capacity and performance problems, but if there is no other solution, we can shift the problem, right? So that was one thing. And I will just leave the talk with another one thing. So you can think of other important developments that we have seen recently is storage, which used to be a physics problem, right? We were searching for all the answers in the physics and the physical layer. Suddenly there is a good, good advancements wherein DNA storage has just come into the picture, which professor from IISc also quoted for a very short note, right? So supposedly this DNA storage is likely to be our answer for archival storage, because the density of total storage, just to give an analogy, it can store up to say 200 or 250 petabytes in just a gram of the DNA, right? So DNA by nature uh, is composed of multiple protein structures, and if you can convert your binary structures and map to these protein structures, actually you can form a full-fledged commercial archival storage out of it. So again, it is like you can think of keeping the storage evolution by shifting its form factor. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. So the next one I'm really looking forward to. Ravi.
Good evening, folks. My name is Ravi Shankar. I work for Red Hat. I'm a software developer. I've been with Red Hat since 2013, and all these 6 years I've been working on GlusterFS, focusing on the Synchronous Replication module. And I've been lucky that I've been able to sneak my name into the maintenance file for a couple of components in the stack. But this talk is not going to be about all of that. This talk is called Why I Cycle to Work and Why You Should Too. So before I begin, can I just have a show of hands? How many of you know how to ride a bicycle? Okay, that's almost everyone. My next question is, how many of you still ride a bicycle in your adult life? That's a huge number. I think my talk is done. Okay, so anyway, let me just give a brief introduction, right? So like many of you might have learned cycling, I also learned how to ride a cycle in my childhood. My father taught me, and I used my cycle mainly to commute to school and back, and then ride along with friends in the evening. But once I finished schooling and I graduated and went to college and then to office, I completely stopped riding my bicycle. It was mainly two-wheelers and four-wheelers. So this continued for about around 10 to 12 years. So I was in my early 30s then. I was going through a tough phase in my life. So a lot of problems. So I somehow needed to relieve my stress. So that's how I decided to take up cycling. So I was looking at some form of exercise to get relief from my stress. And I was looking at some online forums, then I found out a forum called bikezone.com. So sadly, it's not online anymore. It was basically a forum for Indian cyclists to ride and to share data about their ride plans and what kind of cycle reviews and all that. So I was hooked on to that, and around 2014, I decided to buy a cycle again. So I went to Decathlon and I bought an entry-level single-speed bike, and I started riding it every day early morning. For the first couple of weeks, I decided to do the same route from my home to the office, and then after that, I started riding my bicycle to the office, and I kind of got hooked onto it, and it was so addictive, right? So that's how I started cycling since around 2014. So let me give you the reasons why I actually started cycling to work. So one of the first reasons is the time saved, right? So my office is around 9.5 kilometers from my home, and if I have to take my car, it takes about 45 minutes to 1 hour, and if I use my motorbike, it's about 25 minutes. Whereas if I use my cycle, I can probably cover the distance in 30 minutes no matter what the traffic is. So that's one of the main reasons I use cycling to go to work. So the first reason is saving of time. The second reason, like I mentioned earlier, is like kinds of just to relieve your stress. So early in the morning, I usually take an easy pace to go to the office so that I don't sweat a lot. And it actually refreshes me in the sense that I'm able to focus more on the work. And in the evening, if you had a long day at work, debugging a code or trying to solve a race condition in the code, your mind is kind of really worked up and you want to have some kind of a detoxification thing, right? So while riding back home, I kind of put all my energy into the pedal and I try to make the ride in about 25 minutes. So that kind of adrenaline pumping, right? It kind of relieves the stress out of my body. So by the time I reach home, then I'm like all good and ready to go. So that's the second reason. The third reason is, it might seem odd, but the lack of rules for cycling in India. So if you look at other countries, Europe and USA and things, places like that, you usually need helmets, you need a bell on the cycle, you need lights, plus you need to, maintain traffic discipline. In India, there's no such thing. So if there is traffic, I just hop onto the curb and then I go take the left. But you just have to be sure that you maintain quorum and then respect the pedestrians. So if there is a traffic signal and if you're thinking that you're safe, then it's okay to go ahead. You don't really have to stop. But that's not what I'm recommending. But if you've been riding for a long time, then you can make these decisions yourself. The other point that I want to cover is like money, right? So I paid around 6,000 rupees for my basic cycle around like when I bought it in 2014. And within a year of commuting, I saved the cost. So basically, the cycle is now free for me. So I don't care if anybody steals it either. But fortunately enough, that has not been the case. And I've been riding it for about 5 years now. And I've clocked around 10,000 kilometers on that cycle alone. But yeah, so because I like cycling so much, I've also bought a road bike and I've clocked equal number of kilometers on it, but that I use it for riding on the weekends. So the other thing that I want to say is swagger, right? So it is actually kind of fun that when you see all these big SUVs stuck in traffic and you are wearing your cycling kit and helmet and all these lights and you just whiz past them, right? It kind of gives you a satisfaction, the coolness factor, if you will. So that's one of the reasons. So it's not without problems. I just told you a couple of advantages, but there are some problems that you need to overcome. So one of the main things is sweat. So if you're a heavy perspirer like me, right, you need to carry a fresh set of clothes. That's what I do. That is number one. If your office has a shower, please make use of it. And so that your neighboring, people who are sitting in the next cubicle don't have to bear your sweating smell. The second thing is the pollution. So that depends again on which part of Bangalore you're riding. If you're riding on outer ring road like I do, I think the pollution levels can get a bit, high. So what I do is I wear a respiratory mask and then do the commute. And what else did I want to say? Yeah.
We're out of time, Ravi. You had your
right.
5 minutes.
Okay, so then I'll just wind up by saying that some of you I saw did not raise your hands that do not know cycling. So there is a bunch of volunteers in Bangalore who teach you how to ride bicycles for adults in Kapan Park. It's every Saturday, Sunday. So there is a Google group called Bangalore Bikers Club, BBC. So on that you can search. There's a thread called Teaching Adults How to Cycle. So you can go there and then find information. Probably my talk has motivated you to probably start cycling to office. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi.
Good evening, everyone. I want to talk about data. I think from morning to evening, I think people talk about storage, and we also talked about data. And I want to give two perspectives, in fact, three perspectives of data. One is the qualitative perspective, then a quantitative perspective, and then what we should be aware of, right? So from a qualitative perspective, I think people talked about data is the new oil, data is the new currency, data is the new business. I think there are two sides of it. Some people agree data is new oil, data is new business. Some people don't agree to it. That's fine. So data is important, that we all know, we all agree. The second part of the importance of data is the quantity, right? I think the report says daily 2.5 quintillion bytes of data is being generated daily. 1 quintillion is about 10 to the power of 18. So that is the volume. And do we know how many human beings are there on the earth? Approximate guess? 7 billion? Yeah, 7.8 billion. 7 billion was like 2 years back, 7.8 billion. And out of that, about 45% of them are on the internet. That is about 3.6 billion. Yeah. So now all these guys are generating social media data, right? That's what we call as the digital data. Now, what happens to digital data, that the 2.5 quintillion data that we generate, right? How much of that data is really used? Any guess? What percent of the data is really used?
2%.
2%? I think you are a bit on the conservative side.
Okay.
It's 10%. The 10% of the data is generated is really used. The 9% resides untouched somewhere, adding up to the storage daily. So that is the volume of data that we are talking about, which is not used. So my question is, as a storage developer, do we really need to generate that data? And even if we have to generate data, who sets the expiry date on the data? Right? We all said data is created, data is produced. Everything human being created has an expiry date. Do you buy anything which doesn't have an expiry date? You first check what's the expiry date on this, right? So similarly, the digital data that we generate, does it have an expiry date? And if it has to, who sets it? Is that a thought? Now, anybody knows what is the digital afterlife? Heard of digital afterlife? No? What happens to your Facebook account or Google account after you die? Who controls that? Have you thought about it? If you go to that security private setting in Facebook, you can set what can happen to my account after I die. So you can nominate your friends or someone who can say, okay, you want to store the data or delete the data. Or you can memorialize the data, right? So, all what I'm asking is, who is custodian of the expiry date of your digital data? Should that be storage system? Should that be a storage service? Otherwise, right, when people talk about all the protein storage, DNA storage, we'll start screwing up with the DNAs to store this extra amount of data that is coming. So before that, let us think about this. Who sets the expiry date for the digital data? Thank you.
Interesting. Now, John?
Good evening, everybody. So once I was just typing on my mobile phone, sending something on social media. My daughter came. She just asked me, where does this all go? And I tried to give her an answer, which is now a cliche. I just told her that it goes in cloud. And she's a small daughter, so she just looked up, confused, and left. But then that triggered a question in my mind. Hey, what is the cost of this data that we are generating on social media? We all know that we are generating a huge amount of social media. So I just did some research and I found something interesting. So I just wanted to share with you. So when we type something on, when we are playing something on mobile phone for 4 to 5 minutes, regular social media interaction, regular, right? What we do is we burn enough energy to keep lighting a LED bulb for an hour or so. And if you do some data intensive activity like watching a video or something like that, that same thing happens only in 45 seconds. So then I figured out, well, my cell phone battery doesn't go low. So where does this all energy get burned from? So of course, it gets burnt when the data is being transferred over network and when the data gets stored on the data center. So I just tried to find out how much is the cost there. So there is some research. And what I found was that a big telecom company has done a research that if you transfer a gigabyte of data, it takes about 2 kilowatt hour of energy consumed completely, right? Now, admittedly, these are older figures, so maybe things are getting efficient, but this is not like insubstantial. This is quite not insignificant at all. So how do we reduce this wastage of energy? One way to do that is to not do non-essential social media interactions. I know that it's very difficult, and what is essential and not is very, very person dependent, right? The other thing is, of course, we can turn off, when our phone is idle, the data gets sent across still, so we can turn off that thing. I hope operating systems come up with this feature of energy saving feature, which means not just saving the battery of the phone, but overall energy, the carbon footprint, right? The other aspect is the data center where the data gets stored. So power and cooling are one of the most substantial energy eating components of a data center. Out of that, you'll be surprised, about 40 to 50% of the energy is required in cooling of all the power that gets consumed in a data center, up to that. So what are the technologies that are available to reduce the power consumption? There are several. So I just looked at one particular thing I want to talk about, which is hyperconvergence. So hyperconvergence, as you know, it collapses compute, storage, and network onto an efficient x86 box. And it's a web scale architecture, so you can scale in and scale out on a need basis. So you don't have to necessarily over provision things, right? And of course, automation. The possibility of automation allows you to save a lot of cost as well. So apart from the cost of infrastructure itself, I just looked at, so Nutanix has come up with some numbers on how, done some research on how much their customers have saved. But overall, for hyper-converged environments, right, some customers have gained at least 40 to 50% of energy saving on cooling by adopting this architecture. So anyway, so how many of you have been downloading today's results, election results on the phone? You can think about how many LED bulbs you have been burning. Thank you.
Thank you. So folks, if I ask you to have your feedback forms ready, we'll start to collect them. Ankita, you're next.
Good evening, people. So, I'm Ankita Dhavle, and I'm a tech marketing engineer working for NetApp. And it's close to 3.5 years with NetApp now. And as you can see, I will try here to, as a part of lightning talk, let's lighten the mood. And I like to share my journey. Fresh out of college, joined as an intern, and got converted as a full-time employee in NetApp. So here's the thing: when I was in a college, there are a lot many things you have to do: the exam pressure, assignments, hard deadlines, and whatnot. But the moment I came to corporate, my first day, and here's the scenario: when I walked into the NetApp office, the corporate office, and you have a cubicle, the big name written over there, and you will get free food, lot of Wi-Fi, and on top of that, you are gonna learn things and people gonna pay you. I mean, entire of my life I'm learning, nobody cares, and all of a sudden if you start learning, people are gonna pay you. I mean, this is something, it's like jokes apart, but it was really a very good experience as an intern, because NetApp, they provides 12 months of internship where they'll provide lot of mentorship. You will get many fun activities, lot of trainings, and they make sure that how they can help you to complete a project on time. So for me, after 12 months, there was an intern showcase event, and that year I got a title of best intern topic award. And after that, I got this news that I got converted as a full-time employee. So from there onwards, learning and that student attitude where I was enjoying the Wi-Fi and stuff like that, then it's come to the corporate full-time employee. There, no more hence proved, let us assume. There are real life problems which you have to deal with, and you have to take responsibilities what you are doing. You have to be very attentive in all the things. So I learned a lot of things over there, and you can have your colleagues which are coming from different parts. They have different expertise and multiple years of experience that really helped me to grow. And it's been 3.5 years of journey so far with NetApp, and I'm really enjoying it. But if you ask me what was the best part so far, I will say that initial honeymoon period. Why they say that initial honeymoon period? Now I got it. The 3 months I enjoyed a lot, and that was the ultimate time. It was. Thanks a lot.
That was a little bit different. We'll do the same again tomorrow and see how that goes. Thank you for your attention. I'm just going to call up Udayan, if he's in the room, to help us deal with... now keep it as a surprise. Don't tell them what's in it. Okay, let's do this.
So, Paul, you want to take out?
No, that's your responsibility.
Oh, okay.
Mix them up.
Right. Rather, let's get someone from the participants. That
Sure.
will be... sorry?
Yeah, Rob, come on up.
Rob,
Yeah,
please.
Rob's one of our speakers tomorrow, so we might as well make him do some work today. You'd like to draw a feedback form, Rob? All right. Thank you.
Absolutely, please.
May need some help with the pronunciation.
Right. Oh, this is Vinod from Wipro.
Well done.
And if you... Okay, yes. Please, Vinod. You.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you,
Don't go away, Rob.
Rob. You have to be here.
You got a job for life now.
All right. Right. So,
Dig deep. That's it.
okay. And the condition is if the person is not there, there's no prize for that person. So, this is from Fidelity Investments, Thianga Wajan. Oh, this.
Oh, what a lucky day.
Why don't you give it to him? Thianga. Lucky.
Well done.
Yep, please.
It's a job for life.
Yeah, just three more small
Three more.
prizes.
Okay.
Oops.
It's Ravi Kiran from Xilinx. Okay. Can you take out another one?
He's going to be so upset. Don't anybody tell him.
Okay. From MSys Technologies, Ramesh Veluswamy.
He's here.
Okay.
It seems wrong that we're giving away storage prizes, doesn't it?
Please.
Thank you. Two more.
So the feedbacks are very important for us for this one reason, and we take your feedback very seriously because that helps us really improve. From Delhi MC, we have Sanjeev. Right.
You can never
Last
get
one
enough
to go.
storage. Last one.
So again from MSys Technologies, it's Rupala Krishnan.
Yeah.
Please.
Well done. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
I'll say a few words to close you down.
Yes, thanks a lot for all the participants here. It's been a fantastic day today, long day, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of things to go back to do. And want to see you again tomorrow. Have a great evening today, and there are many more exciting sessions tomorrow, focusing on NVMe, some of the other storage technologies, and I'm sure you are going to find them enjoyable. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.